I remember after training, Doug Livermore at the time, who was the assistant manager to Nigel Worthington, he pulled me to one side and said, Damien, that was a disgrace. I said, what are you talking about, Doug? He said, that training session was a disgrace. You were shocking. So he ripped into me. I was like, oh, yeah, sorry. Dougie, sorry, I was a bit tired today, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? I obviously didn't know I had a night out and that, but I was like, yeah. Sorry, Doug.
Welcome back to a very special Canaries Chat podcast. My name's Luke and I'm here with my co-host Chris. Chris, how are you today?
Very well, Luke. Very excited for today's pod.
Let's get straight into it. As you can all see, we're here with ex-Norwich City midfielder Damien Francis. So Damien, thank you for coming on the podcast today. It's very appreciated. How have you been?
No, I'm really good, thank you. Really good, thank you. And it's no problem at all.
So I guess the first question from us would be taking it back to the start. So, you know, how did you get into football? When did you start playing football? And, you know, where did it all kind of start for you?
Yeah, well, where did it all start? I mean, when I speak to my mum about it and my earliest memories of like childhood growing up and stuff, like kicking a ball around anywhere was how I got my pleasure in my early years. And I was sort of, it's a cliche, but I was literally nowhere without a ball. So from when I can walk, I like to kick a ball around, and then from sort of, I'd say 4, which I sort of remember. I grew up in Wandsworth, so there's a lot of greenery in Wandsworth. So I was always at the common. A lot of my friends played football as well. So it's just what we did. Do you know what I mean? And even if I wasn't at the common, at home, I was always kicking the ball around. You know, I had a decent sized house, which I was blessed to grow up in. So I was in the corridors, I was in my bedroom, I was, you know, even smashing windows, to be fair, like smashing light bulbs and all types of stuff. I had a garden as well when it was raining and that, I was indoors doing it. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
even in the garden, when I got a bit older, I'd say about 7 or 8, I made like my own goal in my garden, and then I just practice, but like hours and upon hours and by myself, because I'm an only child as well. Do you know what I mean? So I grew up alone. I didn't have any brothers or sisters growing up. But I remember when I had a neighbor, and I had a lot of different footballs when I was growing up, like smaller ones, bigger ones, etc. But when it would go over the fence sometimes, he was a bit annoying because he had like some amazing like flowers in his garden, and that he's very proud of. Do you know what I mean? Him and his wife.
Yeah.
So they used to get really annoyed because obviously the ball would go over and like smash probably one of his like lovely roses that he's been pruning all day or whatever. Do you know what I mean? What he would normally do, he would keep the ball. He wouldn't actually throw it back over. He would keep the ball, right? So I had to get like a new ball every single sort of, you know, every time that happened, which was really. But I had spares in the house anyway, as you can imagine. But so that was sort of my growing up.
So what football team did you support growing up then? Or did you have one, or did you follow a team as a kid?
I actually supported Wimbledon Football Club.
Yeah.
That was my sort of local team initially. Yeah, that was my local team. So me and my friends, we supported Wimbledon. So I would watch their games. I'd walk to Plough Lane from where I lived. It was like a 20-minute walk or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Just walk down there with my mum and watch the games, and it was So even so, when I got scouted from Wimbledon when I was 9, I was like, you know, I was on cloud 9 because obviously it's my local team. Plus I got, you know, playing for them. So yeah.
Yeah, and what was that like being scouted at that age? You know, were you in the setup from Wimbledon from the age of 9 till professional, or?
Yeah. What was it like? First, I mean, it was a dream come true, of course. Like, you know, to be scouted by my club. Do you know what I mean? Like that I support. Was amazing, but at the same time, it was like I played a lot of football when I was younger. So I played for my school team, district, Sunday team. Like I'd literally play about probably four matches like a week. Do you know what I mean? For all different teams. Plus obviously my like practicing myself and all that when I was good. So playing for Wimbledon, was incredible because it was us in a sort of structure when it comes to training on this day, and the level of coaching as well was higher than what I was sort of obviously used to at the school level or Sunday league, or, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
sports. But yeah, so that was it's good to have the balance of the two at that age, from the age of 9. Yeah, it was it was a good, really it's good. It matched my sort of ambition, because I was always like on the case of being a pro. That's all I wanted to do. It's all I was going to do. As simple as that. Do you know what I mean? I didn't have
yeah,
anything else in my mind, literally. Do you know what I mean? Yes, I had to go to school. Yes, I had to do, you know what I mean, what I had to do as a child. But football was the thing that I was adamant I was going to do. So when I was in a more professional environment, when it comes to Wimbledon, when it came to Wimbledon from the age of 9, it was right up my street, because I was like super focused. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
And with
Mm.
that, Damien, you obviously say like Wimbledon's your boyhood club. What
Yeah.
was it like when you first made that debut, then kind of stepping out onto the pitch?
Yeah, I mean, it was surreal. It was surreal because growing up, I used to like watch Match of the Day, like probably most of the kids, but like I used to watch Match of the Day. I used to record Match of the Day. I used to watch it back. I knew all the players. I studied, you know what I mean, football, like without actually studying. That was just what I did. You know what I mean? And to actually make my debut in the Premier League against Arsenal at the time, I remember it like it was yesterday. Do you know what I mean? It was like I was
Yeah.
warming up, and then Joe Kinnear at the time called. There was a few of us warming up in the corner, and then he shouted over to the corner to like at someone to come in, but I wasn't expecting it to be me. Do you know what I mean? And then he said, "No, no, no, you, Dame." I was like, "Shit!" I was like, I'm sorry that, sorry I swore then, but
No, that's fine, mate.
hey, yeah, so he shouted me, yeah, me to come back to get stripped. I was like, oh, my head was like spinning a little bit. Do you know what I mean? But obviously, I had to get focused. I got a game to play. So when I'm on the sideline, I can't remember. I think it was the assistant at the time, Terry Burton, was giving me some instructions, but I have no idea what he was saying. He couldn't even say anything. I was just like, I wasn't really listening too much, to be honest with you, because I was getting on the pitch. You know what I mean? So to step onto the pitch. It was at Highbury at the time, so walking, playing against like Bergkamp and Overmars, and Vieira was there at the time, Petit, like all these absolute legends. And then when you come on to Highbury, had like a massive, like two big screens in each corner of the ground at that time. Probably still does, like the Emirates, but I mean they're old ground, Highbury. Two massive screens in each corner. So when I came on, I saw myself on the screen as well. It was like a
Oh.
mad trip, because I'm like, wow, I'm actually here now. Do you know what I mean? It was that
Mm.
feeling. So, that quickly went when the referee blew the whistle. Obviously, I was in the game then. Do you know what I mean? But the actual feeling of that first taster was like, yeah, that's what I want for the, like, you know what I mean? Like my whole career. Like this is what I've worked for. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So all
Yeah, I was
good
gonna
stuff.
say it must seem really like surreal, as you said, like seeing yourself on a screen at Highbury to then
Yeah.
stepping onto the pitch. You kind of briefly mentioned it, but I
Mm,
mean, me and Luke could only dream of doing that for
mm,
Norwich, but it's like, does
mm.
kind of the boyhood dream nearly like snap away nearly instantly when you're straight into the action then? So you've stepped onto the pitch at Highbury with, you said,
Yeah.
Bergkamp, Petit, players like that.
Yeah.
Is there still any time that you're kind of thinking, how have I got here? Or like, I've
Not
finally made it? Or is it just like
yeah.
straight into game plan?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it's like the initial I'm coming on, like, did I mean in my mind, I'm actually stepping onto the pitch now. Did you know what I mean? This is like that comes through your head. And as I said, seeing myself on the screen, that comes through my head when I'm running on. But literally, it's like a switch. Like as soon as that whistle, like, all right, it's the ball's in play now. Like this is what I do. I play football for a live. Like, do you know what I mean? Since I was a kid, do you know what I mean? So you're just in the game. Then all of that stuff like just goes instantly, and you're just like, all right, I want to, impose myself as much as I can on the game and do well. Do you know what I mean? Because this is my job, and I want to stay here. And you have to fight to stay on the pitch. You know what I mean? I didn't want to, so you have to give yourself justice, and I'm building my professional career as well. So it's very so the focus like is instant. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah, no, no.
Mm.
And then obviously, I think it was around 6 years you spent at Wimbledon,
Yeah.
and you transferred to Norwich. Believe it was 2003.
Yeah.
How did that move kind of materialize for yourself? How were you made aware that Norwich were interested? Was it kind of an instant, I've got to make that move? Was there any kind of hesitation because you would be leaving your boyhood club? How did that move go down?
Yeah, I mean, it was mixed up sort of emotions because I was at Wimbledon. I weren't really wanting to move anywhere, to be honest with you, because I was happy at Wimbledon. I wanted to stay there for many years, probably not my whole career, but I was happy there. But because of the financial situation of the club, and everyone was being sold off basically on the cheap because we're in administration, that everyone was forced to sort of leave, so at the time there's all interest from different clubs. I went up to Stoke, were one of the ones that really wanted me at the time. I went up there to meet them. Yeah, something happened in regards to personal terms. They went back on the deal basically, so I had to take a minute to think about it. So I turned back around and drove back down to London from meeting Stoke, and then my agent got a call from Norwich saying they're interested. So I said, okay. So the next morning we woke up in London and we drove straight up to Norwich. And as soon as I would come up to Norwich, I had played against Norwich I think once or twice, maybe twice, but definitely once. So I was familiar with the stadium, but not really
Yeah.
Norwich as a town. Do you know what I mean? Or seen the training ground either. But as soon as I went to the training ground, that's where we had the initial meeting. As soon as I hit the training ground and I saw the facilities, I was like, no, this. I know. First thing that I said to my agent, I said, I can improve massively here. Do you know what I mean? I like the feel. I like the feel straight away, basically. Do you know what I mean? Because I saw all of
Yeah.
the pictures were perfect, and I wasn't used to that because at Wimbledon the pictures were far from perfect. They were like boggy, sometimes like waterlogged and all of that, which I was cool with because that's what I was used to. Do you know what I mean? But so to see perfect pitches on a training ground, I was like, it just blew my mind away. So I was just like, no, this is the initial thought and feeling about Norwich was like so positive. So I was hoping that the rest of the day, the negotiations, etc., would go well, and they did. You know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here.
Uh,
Um,
that's, uh, that's interesting to hear because obviously, like at the moment, I think we've obviously put a lot of money into our training facilities, and now that's kind of one of our selling points
yeah,
nowadays. Was that kind of similar back then from your perspective? Was there actually like that huge world of difference from Wimbledon to Norwich training facilities, or
massive, huge. Because at Norwich, when I came to Norwich and I saw the training ground, it was like I'm trying to think, maybe one basically every pitch that was at the training ground was like carpet basically. Do you know what I mean? And I saw it. As I said, I was very impressed with that because Wimbledon was the total kind of opposite. Smaller budget. Our training ground was like on a public sort of. It's a public park basically. Do you know what I mean? That they leased out or rented out, whatever else. So, it was chalk and cheese when they come to facilities. And we had a small pavilion. You know what I mean? It's just two different like worlds basically. But so when I went, as I said, when I went there, the facilities they matched my sort of. I was happy with them. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure they've obviously kicked on massively now, but at the end of the day, football doesn't really change. It's like we play on a pitch, and there's a pavilion that you can have food on, and then just change rooms and a gym or whatever else. I'm sure that they're much more impressive now, but back then I was happy with what I saw and what we had at Norwich, at the time.
so? in regards to that, Damien, obviously you've kind of signed on the dotted line. You've
Yeah.
managed to, you've got kind of the move you wanted after the Stoke deal kind of fell through. Talk us through kind of those next few years then, so with Norwich.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting for me actually because having grown up in London, lived in London, my sort of whole life until that point, and not outside of London. When I moved to Norwich, um, it was very obviously much more slower pace of life in general. I'm away from my friends, away from my family, which wasn't a problem, but it was it was interesting to me that I could actually I was actually had to sit down because I'm used to in London. I'm used to going around used to go around to my mum's house, used to go to my friend's house. You know, we pop out for a little meal. Do you know what I mean? It's more sort of social. Which is, you know, I wouldn't say it's a good thing or bad thing. It just is what it is. You know what I mean? When you're around what you know. So in Norwich, it was much more of a simpler life for me, which sort of elevated my game, I think, as well, 100%, because it was just more about um, you know, training matches. Of course, I'm back in the flat, I'm resting, and not really doing much else really, and that was it. Do you know what I mean? So I felt like it was a big it was a positive change for me, put it that way. Do you know what I mean? Positive change for me, and I felt like, yeah, my game was getting sharper, put it that way. My game was getting sharper, and my mind was getting sharper when it comes to football. You know, so now I was really happy with the move, and fully focused with the team, and the team itself as well at the time. The squad and stuff were very um, you know, welcoming. Everyone was like such a nice group of guys, seriously, from everybody. Do you know what I mean? And I'm a hard worker when it comes to training and matches, and yeah, it started off pretty well.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
so Damien, what's your kind of favourite memory for playing for Norwich? Is there any moment that sticks out for you, considerably more than others, or?
Memory. I mean, I'm lucky. I'm lucky to the fact that, you know, there were many good moments during my 2 years at Norwich, to be honest. But one that sort of sticks in my mind right now is you know, winning a championship at the time with the club, and uh, witnessing the whole sort of city, sorry, yeah, come together and everyone be happy. That was an amazing feeling to
Yeah,
be. You know what I mean? That was really it was great to experience that. Really good to experience that.
yeah,
Was yeah, it just yeah, seeing everybody happy within the city was a real highlight, to be honest with you, and having the parade and the bus and all of that, and you know, it was really good times.
yeah.
So
And
yeah, that probably stand out.
yeah, do you have a favourite Norwich goal? Because I spoke to my dad about you coming on, and he said his favourite memory of you when not watching Norwich was your goal against Manchester City when the Etihad had just opened at the time.
Oh yeah, yeah,
He said the Norwich fans went absolutely crazy that day, and he said that's one of
yeah.
his favourite goals from yourself. But do you have
Okay.
any particular one that again stands out to you, or do you have a favourite goal that you scored personally?
I mean, yeah, I like the goal that your dad's favorite. I did like that one as well. To be fair,
Yeah,
that was, but that's not necessarily my favorite, but it was a, you know,
yeah,
I like that one. But I've got two that sort of stand out, I suppose, for different reasons. I mean, on our run into winning the championship, you know, the team were flying and stuff, and we had Preston at home, and yeah, I remember I scored a left-footed curler into the top corner that day, just outside the area. So that probably stands out for me as one of my favorites, because it was like you know, pretty good goal, but
yeah,
the occasion as well was like a party sort of atmosphere within the ground because we were doing so
yeah.
well. You know what I mean? There's that one, and also I think another one for different reasons. But when I broke my cheekbone at Norwich, my first game back
Mm.
was away at Portsmouth, and then I scored yeah, a volley on that day into the top corner, and then but that one was like a lot. It was very emotional for me because been out, and then that was my first game back, and I scored the goal like that. And you know what I mean? There's a lot came out of me on that day. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's two that sort of stand out, I suppose.
And I suppose again, I know we're like relating it back to like me and Luke, obviously. We've watched
Hmm.
football our whole lives. Like as kids, you'd always just dream of being a footballer.
Yeah.
Can you even put into words what it feels like to score a Premier League goal, or is it just does it nearly not become the norm? But once you've scored
Oh
one or
no.
two, does it lose the kind of excitement of it, or do you always still have like that rush every single time you
Yeah,
score?
they said no. Sorry to butt in, but yeah, one you asking that question has brought me into another goal that actually that springs to mind. No, where we at home we played against Southampton and we needed to win because we were like you know our closest rival at the time to sort of stay up in the Prem and I remember scoring two that day, but like the one it was like a glancing header I scored like in the box and that was the winner because it was like near the end of the game and stuff like that. But that the reason I mentioned that is because when I scored that goal, I remember peeling off and hitting the corner of where the fans are, where one of the corners where the fans are. But I remember like even up to this day vividly that the fans were it was so loud. I was by myself actually. I don't know where the boys were. They were like somewhere else. But I was by myself and it was like and the fans were like, you know, really buzzing and very, very loud that day. And I remember myself, I sort of, it was like slow motion. Like I was in slow motion, like that with the feeling of the adrenaline going through my body, like looking at the fans or whatever else and how I was feeling. It was a crazy feeling, like mad, because I, you know, scoring that type of, you know, very important goal, you know, and the scoring in general. Um, is a mad feeling, but that particular certain goals are more they feel more than others. Do you know what I mean? If that makes any sense.
Yeah,
But
no,
to answer the question, um, yeah, there's no other better feeling for me like than scoring goals. There isn't. Like since retiring, it's like it's depressing because like nothing's gonna live up to it ever again in
yeah.
my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's like you just it's just like when you're playing Sunday League and you score and you the buzz that us boys get off Sunday League scoring, I don't think we could I think our heads would explode trying to comprehend what that would be to score in front of like 25,000 people.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you mentioned obviously when you signed for Norwich, all the lads were obviously really welcoming and kind of got a lovely warm reception. Obviously, you had the likes of like Huckabee, Mackenzie. I
yeah,
believe Crouch was there your first year, I believe.
yeah, yeah. He came
Um,
on loan. Yeah, yeah.
in regards to that, is there any kind of behind the scenes stories that we may not have heard or anything that Norwich fans may have missed with those? Because there was quite big characters in that dressing room at the time you joined.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not, you know what? I'm not gonna, I don't want to mention, there are, to answer your question, there are, but I'm not going to mention anything else, any stories involving anybody else. But I'll tell you about one with me when we were going up, when we won the league anyway, and I think we won with few matches to go, I think 2 matches to go, maybe. We had a few nights out, as you can imagine. So I remember one particular night. I'm not sure if we were allowed to go out that night or whatever. But anyway, we had training the next day. But I went out with whoever. I can't remember who else went out with. But I was a bit worse to wear, put it that way. I had training, but I remember after training, Doug Livermore at the time, who was the assistant manager to Nigel Worthington, he pulled me to one side and said, Damien, that was a disgrace. I said, what are you talking about, Doug? He said, that training session was a disgrace. You were shocking. That he ripped into me. I was like, oh, yeah, sorry. Dougie, sorry, I'm a bit tired today, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? I obviously didn't know I had a night out and that, but I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, Doug. Yeah, I'm tired, bro. Like, I don't know what it is, etc., etc. Did I mean? I'll be better tomorrow or the day after. What did I mean? But that's one little light one. I'm not gonna expose you know, all of them.
Yeah, I suppose it's not your dirt to maybe dish on the others. So
Right.
we'll see if we can get them on and see if we can get any stories from them.
There you go.
So Damien, obviously Norwich in their Premier League run had the last game of the season against Fulham where they needed to win, and unfortunately the game we lost 6-0. And at the end, there was an infamous kind of incident with yourself where, it was caught on camera that you were smiling, and obviously a lot of Norwich fans weren't happy at that point.
Yeah.
What was your point of view on that scenario, and what happened in your terms then?
Yeah. I've got a question for you though, like before I answer it, because I don't know the full extent. Like I wasn't aware of the full extent of like of how large it got, to be honest with you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because what did you hear? What have you heard that like how it went down then? How was it like? Obviously, it was a negative thing that it was looked upon, but what's the
No, so
story?
it's not anything that's been heard. I just think it was on camera.
Was it?
Obviously, it was caught on there, and I think a few of the fans that day, from what I've heard, I guess, were a little bit angry, obviously at the incident, and caught maybe yourself doing that as well. Did that happen, or is it a different kind of thing from your side?
Um, well, I mean, I can understand the fans being angry seeing that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Without, yeah, obviously, understandably, because one, that was the most like disappointing, embarrassing match of my career, basically. Do you know what I mean? And
mm,
I'm a professional and we have pride. Do you know what I mean? I have pride in my game, I have pride in my career, etc., etc. So to be embarrassed like that and to perform like we did as a team and man myself was you can't really it's hard to understand how bad why we were that bad on that day. So I understand from a
yeah,
fan perspective of seeing that, but I suppose from my perspective it wasn't like anything sinister when it comes to actually laughing it off like it was a joke on that day, because it obviously it wasn't. But what happened? I
yeah,
think what happened was, I think I mentioned this before, but on because the match was in London, right, Fulham.
mm,
So my mum came to the game, and
yeah,
so she rarely came to Norwich, really, just like London games and sometimes Norwich, but I didn't really see her that often. So
mm,
um, the part that I remember, the coach was parked up outside of the match, outside of the ground. Sorry, so we're waiting on like everyone to get their stuff together, or whatever else. So I hopped off the bus to speak to my mum before we headed up to Norwich, back up Norwich. So when I was standing with my mum, obviously speaking with her, I'm very close to my mum, and I think she said something. I can't remember exactly what she said, to be honest with you. It was a long time ago, but she said something and it made me chuckle. Obviously, the timing of it was terrible, because I should have been very much aware and read the room, if you like. Do you know what I mean, of the situation a bit more? But I don't think I could really. It's just one of them ones where it's a mistake from myself. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously people
yeah,
see something and the optics are not good when you're just laughing at a time like that. So it was very innocent and very probably naive and silly from me, but it was very much not the case of what people thought, basically. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah,
um,
definitely.
and even after that, I didn't hear about it until later on anyway. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah,
I get what people are saying about it, because everyone's fuming. We just got relegated. Do you know what I mean? And I'm fuming too. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So I can understand where people, if people see a player laughing after a match like that, or smiling, or whatever it may have been.
yeah,
It's just like I'll be the same. Like, what the fuck are you laughing at? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
just got tanked. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So now, I mean, it's one of them ones. It wasn't
yeah,
anything towards anybody, to be honest with you. But I understand where people are coming from with that. And when people later on were sort of what's the word, talking about it, I couldn't really respond with regards to much, because I knew what the truth was, and I just
yeah.
look, at the end
No
of
point.
the day, it's not like I built a reputation while I was at Norwich of being like an a-hole or anything. Do you know what I mean? People,
No,
Yeah,
hopefully people saw me for being a decent guy, a decent player, and and it was just one isolated incident that happened to be
Of
unfortunate
course.
when it comes to the actual visual of it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's always two sides of the story, isn't there? And I think frustrations were probably already high after that result anyway, weren't there? Because obviously we just been
Exactly,
relegated from the Premier League and
of
lost
course.
6-0. And maybe it was just, something for the fans just to kind of latch onto,
Yeah.
due to the
No,
anger of just being relegated, but not
yeah,
knowing the full story.
I don't. Yeah, I don't even think it was just the fans. To be honest with you, I think a few of the players were a bit pissed off as well with me. Do you know what I mean? That's why it
Really?
hurt. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say any names, but I heard that a few
yeah.
players were, but which
What
is to
about the
understand.
laugh or the performance?
Probably both. Probably both. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably both. We'd have to speak to them, but I mean, it's yeah, it is what it is.
No, and just that Premier League campaign as a whole, how did the relegation make you feel personally? Obviously, we just set aside the Fulham game where that it was 6-0, we needed to win. How did you take that relegation personally?
How did I take it? Um, I did. Yeah, I took it hard. It was, the thing is, we were so close to sort of staying up,
Yeah,
and it's very difficult. It's not like we were cut adrift of like 10 points and we just were going down. Do you know what I mean? We're actually there
yeah,
or out sort of whole season, but we just never really. I think during the season we never really had that sort of run of games where we got maybe to mid-table and we were like, do you know what I mean? Maybe drop down a few and then we were always sort of battling around the bottom. Um, how did I take it? Yeah, I mean, it was tough to take massively, massively
mm,
because I didn't we didn't get going to the Premier League to go back down at all, at all.
yeah,
Yeah, it was hard to take.
And then I suppose leading on to that, Damien, you've been relegated. Obviously, the transfer window opens.
Yeah,
Um, in regards to that, obviously you ended up with your transfer to Wigan, I believe,
yeah,
and there was again a little bit of back and forth really between the club, the manager, and the media, and less so yourself in regards to what was happening.
yeah.
What was going through your head when things like that were being said about how you were trying to get the move? What was really one, what was really happening, and two, what was going through your head seeing the stuff
Mm.
that kind of Worthington was saying about yourself in the press?
To address the question about the press thing, I didn't really, as a player, myself personally, you can't really read every inch of every paper and everything else. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you just drive yourself nuts. To be honest with you, that's me personally. And what I did, what someone made me aware of, in regards to what Nigel Worthington was talking about in the press as well. Yeah, it pissed me off massively because it was far from the truth. And I remember when he sort of threw me under the bus in the press because look, football's a business. He's in his role. He wants to be seen upon in a certain light. He has control of the narrative when it comes to the press in Norwich and whatever he wants to say. Social media wasn't even out then. To be
Yeah.
fair, I could have said my piece on my
Yeah.
own social. But so I was just quiet throughout the whole thing, and I remember playing in a preseason friendly against Inter Milan. I was actually on the bench. I didn't really play in the preseason games, but I came on at half time, and every touch I had, the whole stadium was booing me and stuff like that. And but I didn't take it personal because I knew why, because he had said what he had said in the press about me. So I got that, but it was also difficult to take because I felt like I had a good rapport with the fans. Did I mean with my time at the club? But I understood where they were coming from because they read what they read and they hear what they hear, and they don't hear from myself. I'm going to say, and yeah, when it comes to actually the wanting to transfer, I mean, I. I always saw from a very young again, I'll bring it back from a very young age. I saw myself as a Premier League player, like as simple as that. Do you know what I mean? I was going to play in
Yeah.
the Premier League, debut in the Premier League. Oh, and once you play in the Premier League, there's no way you want to, no else you want to play. You don't want to play in the Championship. I'll be honest. Do you know what I mean? And when Norwich went down, I wanted to stay in the Premier League. I'm not gonna, like
Yeah.
any sort of player would do, I suppose. I was happy to also stay at Norwich, but there was a lot of interest in me to stay in the Premier League. Um, so I did want to move on if the right deal came along, but not the way it sort of happened. I didn't want it to happen like it happened. You know what I mean? 'Cause I didn't really leave the club
Yeah.
in a good light when it shouldn't have been like that. But and it's business. You know what I mean? It's business. And to be fair, I walked away from without going into few details, but in my contract there's a lot of things that the club made me waive basically when it comes to financial stuff. Did I mean which people don't know about? And in order, it was in my contract, but in order for me to leave, they said, well, you're leaving, so you're gonna have to waive that and waive that and waive that. And I was like, well, thanks very much. Like, do you know what I mean? I done pretty well for the club. I hoped, but this is, as I said, it's business, and I can't take it. I can't take it to heart. I did at the time, but I can't look back now. I'm like, look, they're running the business. They could save, X, Y, and Z, because I want to stay in the Premier League, and they're just going to do that. So they dug their heels in on that side. I had to waive like a lot of money, which I did to move on. But as I say, the fans don't see half of what goes on, and in that situation they didn't either, which understandably as well. They're not going to understand all of that, but yeah. Also going back to that match I'm telling you about when I came on against Inter Milan, and then yeah, the whole stadium was booing me and everything else, and I was kind of on the verge. After that, I kind of knew it was going to be my last game at Norwich, really, because things are happening off the pitch. But I clapped the fans anyway. A few of them clapped me, and and whatever else. But I remember after the game, actually, it was sitting there. Nigel Worthington was, first we all sat down coming from the game, and the first thing he said, like everyone was quiet. First thing he said was Damien. He said my name. Like I was like, you're starting a sentence with my name. Mad. Like me and him weren't even getting on. Like, do you know what I mean? Like at all. Like weren't even talking. And he said like Damien. I was just like, but I didn't look at his face. I just looked to the floor because I was like raging. And he said, Damien, you showed so much bollocks to maybe didn't say bollocks, but so much courage, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? You got on the ball. The whole place was booing you. You still got on the ball. You done your thing. You done well. Da, 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 da. But the whole time he was talking, I was getting like I was getting like more mad. Every word that he said, every syllable that came out of his mouth, I was getting so vexed, like so pissed off. Like every single time I was so pissed off. I swear to God, I was nearly like on the verge of like like when you're on the verge of like tears because I was so pissed off. I think
Yeah.
a few of the boys like, man, but I didn't say, not one word came out of my mouth, but I was raging because I knew like him talking like that to me, but saying that to the press, I was like, you fucking arsehole. Do you know what I mean? Like, how dare you? You know my character. You've known me for 2 years, but you throw me under the bus and making everyone like turn against me when like, do you know what I mean? When no need to. But when you said that, I was just like, you know what, whatever. I didn't even say anything. Had a shower, went home, and then it's just like, oh, a few days after, I think I'd left the club and everything. But it wasn't cool because I didn't even get to say goodbye to the boys, like to say like it just didn't happen. I just like left. Do you know what I mean? And I sort of look back with a little bit of regret. I didn't go back to say like individually to all the boys like see you later, boy, because we spent 2 years, 2 really good years together. Do you know what I mean? And we got I think from my perspective anyway, I liked everybody like more or less. Like
Yeah.
seriously, we got closer to everybody, and we're a really good group. But that circumstance sort of saw me rush out the door and move to Norwich. But yeah,
It's
so I've
it's
ranted there. Sorry.
no, that's all good. It's refreshing to really hear, I suppose, from like a professional footballer where like that they say it is business. I think as fans, and I like to think me and Luke are quite level-headed when it comes to being fans. Like we understand that there are certain things that have to happen,
Mhm.
and we don't really hold it against players if they want to move or if they don't want to be at the club. Like as you
Yeah,
said, business is business, and it's
yeah,
quite refreshing to hear kind of from yourself, an ex-professional, that like they're not kind of peddling that line of, oh, I was at Norwich, I'd love to have stayed at Norwich for the whole of my career. Like, I love the place. Like, it's refreshing to hear actually, like, you backed yourself to just continue being a Premier League footballer, and with Premier League clubs sniffing around you, that was the right move for yourself. And I think that probably leads me into, I don't know how much you've kind of seen of the Johnny Rowe situation around him supposedly withdrawing from the squad before kickoff. And
No, I
again,
didn't see much of that, but can you like bring me up to speed in regards to that?
yeah, so Johnny Rowe supposedly withdrew from the squad 20 minutes before kickoff. He hasn't said anything. The manager's come out and said that he's in the under 21s for the meantime.
Right,
But there is a way back for him to come back into the squad. It's not kind of something that he'll do indefinitely.
right,
But obviously the club and Thorpe, the manager, have got their line that they're going with, that it's kind of done internally, but that was his decision. They found out on the day.
right.
Fans will obviously speculate that agents were involved, and unsurprisingly, it's gone down very, very badly.
Of course.
Um, from your point of view, is there so much happening behind the scenes that fans actually don't really have a clue, in the nicest way of putting it, on what's actually going on?
Yes and no. I mean, there's no smoke without fire, right? Do you know what I mean? And every player is different. Do you know what I mean? Some players, for example, some players could deal with speculation about themselves, or they hear from their agents or whoever, or they read the papers or whatever else. They can deal with like, oh, whatever, they're interested, whatever. I'm still going to play Saturday. They can block it out. Some players, they get their head turned and their head's all over the place. Do you know what I mean? They think about, the move. They're thinking about the financial aspect. They're thinking about all types of things, and just the characters maybe different. So it's all personal in regards to the actual player that is involved. And what fans, I suppose, don't understand is, clubs can play a massive part in everything, of course, when it comes to the temperature of every situation. So without knowing, the player personally, or whoever is around him, it's hard to comment on that situation. But of course, from an outside looking in, it's like yourself, like as fans, it's difficult to know what the actual truth is. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure we'll all unravel one day. But yeah, there's basically, in a football club, there's all sorts going on. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm thinking back to all the times all the clubs I've played at. Every single day there's something happening. Do you know what I mean? Within the club, characters not getting on, like arguments here, there. Do you know what I mean? Like little clicks here, clicks there. Like there's all types of things going on. Do you know what I mean? Um, but that's what makes football so exciting, right? And ultimately, a footballer's career is extremely short when it comes to actually the lifespan. You never know when your time is actually up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like myself, I retired at 28 years old. Do you know what I mean? So when you retire at 28, I remember like retiring at my last day at Watford training ground, whatever else, due to my injury. And then I went home, and then but that literally that I went home that afternoon, had a like regular evening. But that next morning, I remember vividly. I was living by myself at the time, but I remember vividly waking up that next morning, and and that feeling of not actually having to go to the training ground, like not having to. It was such a mad feeling. You don't understand, like literally, you know what I mean? Because it's like wow, I don't actually have to go to training. Like it's just a weird feeling. Do you know what I mean? Because you've done it for so long, since I was like, as I said to you at the start of this interview, since I was like 2, 3, 4. I played football. That's what I do for a living. Do you know what I mean? Like obviously not at 2 and 3. I'm saying when I've like turned pro. But when you've had it in your heart, your daily routine for like that many years, and it goes, it's like it's a mad feeling that doesn't really leave you for many years. So I'm saying all that to say that a footballer's career is extremely, it's precious thing, and decisions along the way are very difficult to make sometimes. Basically,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
extremely difficult, and you have to weigh things up, rightly, wrongly, etc. X, Y, and Z. Do you know what I mean? So many variables can happen, um, and and yeah, that's what you sort of. So I suppose from what I'm trying to say is when you look at situations, it might look weird. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
actually, a lot underneath when you actually the layers of what's going on are probably I imagine very complex.
Yeah, definitely. So talking about, that situation at Norwich at the moment, I'm not sure how much of Norwich, you follow these days. But do you have kind of any thoughts on how Norwich will do this season? Any players or anything that you're excited about with them this year?
Um, I haven't watched much of Norwich, to be honest with you. I do plan to this season, like to keep a close eye on it because I've been doing other things. But when it comes to actually followed last season was a bit of a letdown, wasn't it, for Norwich? I believe. Did I mean it was so inconsistent. It
Mm,
was quite frustrating to see from afar. But I'm hoping for Norwich this year, at least hit the playoffs minimum, and have a chance to sort of do it in the playoffs. I think it's going to be like every year in the championship. It's going to be tough. You know what I mean? But nah, I mean, as I say, over the course of the season, I'm interested to see what happens. But I will watch more when it comes to
yeah.
yeah, when it comes to Norwich.
Do you come up and visit Norwich much? Do you come and watch some games where you can, or busy with other things? And I know obviously
Yeah, I mean,
you support Wimbledon as well. You're probably there a lot more.
I'm there. Yeah, I'm there. I'm there pretty consistently. Norwich. I haven't. Nah, like maybe if I get to sort of one or two games a season, it's like that's sort of the sort of maximum.
Yeah,
But no, I love coming up to Norwich. Honestly, I love like even where I used to live was Wherry Road, which was like next door to the like I could see the stadium like a few I don't know how many steps, probably 100 steps from my window. Do you know what I mean? So it's like
yeah,
all of that comes back to me, and I love going up to Norwich. So now this season I will be coming up at some stage for sure.
yeah.
Gonna bring my son as well to have a watch of a game and stuff. So now
Oh,
I look forward to coming back.
yeah. And earlier, obviously, you mentioned you didn't get to say bye to your teammates when you left. It just got me thinking. Did you have anyone that you were kind of closer with at Norwich? Did you have kind of like a best pal there, or were you just kind of calm with everyone as such?
Um, to be honest with you, I like to think I was calm with everybody. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't know how they saw me, but I mean,
yeah,
I literally didn't have a problem with literally one person. There's such a nice club. Seriously, it
yeah,
was everybody was like like that. It's a cliche, but like the family club, whatever else, it was like that. Do you know what I mean? The whole feeling was like that, and
yeah,
it sort of spilled onto the players. I was closer with, I suppose, Leo McKenzie. Me and him were pretty close. Um,
yeah,
as I said, I was cool with everybody. Did I mean? It wasn't anyone that I necessarily had a problem with. Like even Zima Abbey. I don't know if you know Zima. You know Zima Abbey? You know the name? You know Zima?
Yeah.
No, Zima, right? Yeah. Zima, I was cool with him. Even though it's so unfortunate with Zima, he was injured for like a lot of the time because of his knees and stuff like that. But I was like really cool with him. Um, yeah, look, there's as I say, like it was a pleasure to sort of play for the club. It sounds like really corny, but it's the truth. You know what I mean? It was, and nothing but like good sort of memories there. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. Well, love Damien. Thank you ever so much for coming on the pod today. We really, really appreciate it. It's been so refreshing, kind of having that insight of what life is like actually in the football world and your experience in Norwich. So we really, really appreciate you coming on today. Obviously, for you listeners as well, give Damien a follow on X. I'm sure you probably appreciate that.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, once again, Damien, thank you ever so much for coming on today.
You're
It's
welcome.
been absolutely great.
Oh, good. No problem. Thanks for the invite and all the best with your channel.
And as always, your guys' support is greatly appreciated. If you give us a follow on X, TikTok, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube, that would be amazing. If you listen on Spotify, if you give this a review, that would also be absolutely wonderful. Chris, my man, absolutely amazing pod today. Is there anything from you before we let the lovely viewers go and, I don't know, have a drink?
No. As I said, I think that's a great pod. Damien was a great first ex-pro to get on. I believe by the time this pod is coming out, our giveaway will still be going. So we'll announce the giveaway next pod. So if you are listening to this, make sure you're going on to our X page and enter in the giveaway for the Norwich third kit. And we'll announce that on the podcast next week.
Lovely. Well, Chris, thank you. Obviously, thanks, Damien, for coming on as well. It's honestly greatly appreciated, and I hope to see all of you next time.